Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. I have been solving math problems for GRE out of this book here, practicing to take the GRE General Test, the 10th edition. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. The problem that I'm about to solve is the one that you're going to find on page number 376, quantitative comparison question number 13. Let's take a look at it. Before we actually solve this question, number 13 that is, before we actually solve it, let me ask you a simple question. Here's the question. The question is, what is pi? And if you're sitting there and answering that question by telling me that it is 3.14, that it is something approximately 3.14, you're not understanding my question. I did not ask how much it is. Most people know how much pi equals to. But if you ask them what it is, they have no idea. They have never bothered to understand what is this concept of pi. So let's talk about it. What is pi? Pi is a natural occurring phenomenon. It is the way the nature created universe, where if you were to draw a circle, and if you were to measure the distance around the circle, and of course distance around the circle is, of course, is what we call circumference. If you were to measure the distance around a circle, right here, and if you were to divide this distance around the circle to distance across the circle, it is across the circle because it's going through the center. Distance across the circle. I shouldn't say across the circle. Any circle. Distance around a circle over distance across a circle. And of course, the distance across a circle is what we call diameter. That distance is a constant. It doesn't matter how large the circle is, it doesn't matter how small the circle is, as long as it's a perfect circle, then the distance around the circle divided by the distance across the circle is a constant. It's a natural constant. And that constant is what is known as pi. That constant is what is known as pi. The Greek person who first invented it, who first came upon it, for his day and age, thousands of years ago, for his day and age, what he was doing was a cutting edge technology. Because up until then, if people wanted to measure distance around the circle, the only way they had is to take a long piece of string, a rope, and put it all the way across the circle, lay it around, and then finally open it up and measure the rope and see how long it is, and that will tell you the distance around the circle. Well, what happened one day is that this guy that we are describing, some scientist in the ancient Greek, scientists by definition are people who study nature. These are curious people. That's why they're called scientists, because they study nature. So he drew a circle and he measured the distance around it, and then he measured the distance across it. And he asked himself, what would happen if I were to divide the two quantities? Divide the distance around the circle to distance across the circle. So he did that, and he made a note of it. It was approximately 22/7. He drew another circle, a smaller circle, and he did the same thing. He measured the distance around the circle and distance across the circle. And he almost fell off his chair because that ratio was again exact same ratio as the ratio that he was for the other circle. He drew one more circle. No matter how many circles he drew, that ratio was constant. And that constant is what is known as pi. Why pi? Pi is for letter P. Pi is for the letter P. P for the perimeter from the Greek letters, alphabet. Pi. Why pi? Because that's what he called it. Had this person, actually pi was not called by the Greek guy. Pi was later on, the letter pi was used much later on in the 18th century by some guy I think named William Jones. But anyway, why pi? Don't worry about why pi, just the letter we use to represent this concept, the concept of circumference of the circle to the diameter of the circle. And that number, that quantity, as I just said, is constant, and it's approximately 22/7, approximately. It's an irrational number. An irrational number is something that cannot be expressed as a fraction, one over the other. It doesn't exist. You cannot say, that's why it's approximately. It's not exactly equal to 22/7. And of course, approximately it is equal to 3.1418 something. It goes on forever. It never ends. An irrational number is so called because it never ends. There is no ratio of numerator to the denominator that you can express to represent this quantity. It's approximately that. And that's what a pi is. A pi, again one more time, I'm repeating myself for the I think probably for the 5th time. We should understand what is pi. When somebody asks you that question, what is pi, don't simply tell them it's 3.14, because they're not asking you how much is pi, they're asking you what is it. Can you articulate the concept behind it? The concept behind pi is that it is a ratio of circumference of a circle to the diameter of the circle. So we're going to carry on with that thing. Circumference of the circle to the diameter of the circle. Let's write that down here. We're going to represent circumference of the circle. We're going to represent C. And the diameter of the circle, let's represent with D. So that was pi. So let's write down here. Let's multiply both sides by diameter. If you were to multiply both sides with diameter, this cancels out, and what we end up is C equals pi times D, or D times pi. And of course, diameter is simply 2 times R. This diameter is simply 2 times R. And the convention in the mathematics is that, and again, if you do not know the word convention, look it up and learn it. Convention has 2 meanings. One meaning you probably already know. One meaning of the word convention is a gathering, a meeting. The second meaning of the word convention is tradition. A convention, just the way we do things in mathematics, is that we always write the constant first. The numerical value first, then the constant. So it's 2 times pi times R. And voila, there you go. There is your formula for circumference. The formula for circumference embedded in the formula for the circumference is your definition of pi. That's where this formula comes from. Right here, incognito. And again, if you do not know what incognito means, these are good words to know for GRE. It does not hurt to expand one's vocabulary, as I've told you many times. Incognito simply means in disguise. So again, what does the word convention mean? It means tradition. Watch what happens. I'm going to convert this word. This is a noun as it exists right now. Let's convert this noun to an adjective. Conventional becomes traditional. So conventional way of doing something, traditional way of doing something is to write the number first, then the constant, and then the variable. Hence 2 pi r. So now that we understand what pi is, that's what this question is about. All this question is asking, number 13, is the definition of pi. I need room here, so I need to erase some things. What should we erase? Let's erase this part right here, all of this thing. And let's do number 13 now. It says the ratio of the circumference of the circle to the diameter of the circle. Well, we just talked about it. That's pi. That is the definition of pi. The definition of pi is it is the ratio of the circumference of the circle to the diameter of the circle. Ratio of the circumference of the circle to the diameter of a circle is exactly what is known as pi. It is pi. So basically what they're asking you to do is compare in column A. In column A you have pi, which we know is 3.14 something, versus 3. We already know pi is more than 3. Pi is 3.14. 3.14 something. That's all it is. That's it. We're done. That's what the problem is about. And if you understood that part, you wouldn't have to do all the other mumbo jumbo that I'm about to do. So now let's do the same problem again with the mumbo jumbo. This is so mumbo jumbo without the mumbo jumbo. Let's do the problem as it is done in a traditional way, in a geeky way, in an orthodox way, in a classical way. So most people, what they would do here is that they would say, well, the circle C is a circle with a radius r, and they'd say, well, circumference equals to 2 pi r, and they put this here over the diameter, which is 2 times 3. They sit there, and then they compare it with 3 here, and then they cancel out this, and this, and that, which is fine too. And you're left with pi versus 3, which is fine as well. But of course, pi is more than 3. Therefore, the answer is A. But if you did all this thing, which is what most people would do, I want you to see this. Because again, one more time, what they're telling you in the first column is the ratio of the circumference of the circle to the diameter of the circle. Well, that is pi. That is the definition of pi. So basically, they want you to compare pi versus 3, and everybody in the world knows that pi is more than 3. It's 3.14. That's it. That's all it is. That's all there was. And if you're sitting there wondering, asking yourself, why is this guy making such a big fuss? Why can't I do it this way? You can do it this way, but it does not hurt to understand the concept behind it. This is doing it in a mechanical way, like a robot, like a freak, like a nerd, without actually appreciating what is behind it. What is behind it is the fact that they want you to compare pi versus 3. That's all there was. Even though it's question number 13, that is all they want you to do. Okay? I hope you found it helpful. If you wish to get hold of me for personal private tutoring, I tutor over the internet via Skype. I also tutor face-to-face. I also do face-to-face tutoring. I also provide tutoring services over the telephone. If there is anything at all that I can do to help you prepare for the GRE, go to my website at www.for4gre.com and send me an email. Or you can go to www.KeshwaniPrep.com and send me an email. Alright?